Well, we have a special treat today. This is the first time I'm getting him on video, so things are moving. But he's a frequent guest of our show. He joins us now. Raw Egg Nationalist. How you doing?
It's good to be back with you, Big Dave. It's good to be back.
Yeah, it's great having you on. And we I gotta first give you a shout out too, and I've said it on Twitter, but you really, were really good at helping to push that Ron Paul thing and Elon Musk together, man. That was really a lightning in a bottle moment, and you were very good at amplifying that story. There was not just, "Hey Ron, would you help Elon?" That happened. Okay, now we got to get it to Elon. "Hey Elon,
Mm.
Ron said he'd help you if you'd want him to help. Would you help? Would you like that?" "Yes, I'd love that." And then amplifying different steps from there. It's still in flux. I mean, Elon's tweeting out Ron's show, and now Ron Paul has become kind of like a de facto kind of consultant for the administration, pushing out stuff about the Federal Reserve and the legality
Mm.
around how the
Yeah.
constitutional power works with the Federal Reserve. All these things it's really an amazing power of social media and podcasting really becoming ascendant. So this is kind of a meta moment because I got to say thanks for helping me. So
No, I mean, it's a pleasure, Dave. I mean, it's the right collaboration, isn't it? I mean, Ron Paul has been saying the same things for a long time about cutting the size of government, and he's getting older now. He's been saying these things for decades, and for a long time, people laughed at him. I mean, obviously, people took him seriously, but he was portrayed as a bit of a kook by the mainstream media and by the mainstream Republican Party. But actually, now there's genuinely a chance that he might actually be able to influence policy in a big way via Elon Musk. But it's like you say, it's been the power of the internet, it's been
yeah,
the power of Twitter, of social media, and
yeah.
that's amazing.
And this is something that is not new to the Mockingbird media. I mean, CBS, NBC, ABC, these are all organs of the
Mm.
government, and they coordinate relationships all the time. They know how to put a headline out there. I remember back when the first Trump administration won, and the media was really good at trying to pick a war between Bannon at the time and Trump, right? Because they
Yeah.
wanted to break that up, and they know how to play strategy like that. So they would put
Mm.
headlines like, Bannon is the real power behind Trump, and they knew that would irritate Trump and
Yeah.
other people, and they know how to play that game. But you know what? People who stand for truth and, dare I say, righteousness, if that has any bearing on governance, it should, we
Mhm.
can also play that game too. And we can actually coordinate different media platforms and different conversations, different silos of audiences and rally them together to make a relationship happen in real time. And that's what we did. Literally, we did that. There was nobody else. Ron
Mm.
Paul wasn't saying, "Hey, I want to talk to Elon." I asked him, "Would you do it?" And Elon wasn't out there saying, "Hey, somebody get me in touch with Ron Paul." No, we pushed it into his face. And that happened. And then we kind of pushed it along into where it's become now. So all of this is possible right in front of our eyes.
Mm.
I know that you've done a lot with writing and the things that you've done with your magazine and working and your reporting. But you've also had a really good role of using Twitter. And unlike a lot, I got to tell you this, just to put the point clearly, there's a lot of people that just want to grift and sell a T-shirt,
Mm.
but
Yeah.
you get things done. So I have to say, I know you're passionate about health, and I know you're passionate about honest government, and I think we can do a lot of things with that. So that's why I wanted to have you on. I mean, we've got this narrative of make America healthy again. Uh, what do you think? Tell me what's in your mind right now. How do you see America becoming healthy again, and by extension, the world, because the world will imitate something that America does that works.
Yeah, I think that's an important point actually to emphasize is that people are looking to America now in all sorts of ways. The right in Europe is looking to America to see whether Trump actually does his mass deportation policy and whether they can actually imitate that. And that will be a huge test, potentially with huge knock-on effects for the rest of the world if it's successful. But yes, I think with this MAHA agenda as well, make America healthy again, then yeah, I mean, it could potentially lead a revolution in public health across the developed world. We could see changes not only to regulation, but also to the way that agriculture is done, the promotion of regenerative agriculture. It's been suggested that Joel Salatin is on board
Huge.
with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., which is incredible. He's someone who's been writing for decades about all of the things that are wrong with the way that food is produced in America, the way that farmers are treated, the fact that they can't do anything that they really want to do or should do. Small farmers, at least, of course, because if you're a big farmer, if you're a corporate player, then of course you do whatever you want, you know. But yeah, how do I see it playing out? Well, I think at this stage it's unclear exactly what's going to happen now. Okay, we've got RFK Jr. on board with this winning message. He's helped Trump win. He obviously has helped Trump win. He's definitely contributed huge momentum, really positive messaging. I think just having a member of the Kennedy family, lifetime liberal, on board. I mean, if that isn't a unity ticket, I don't know what is. So, he's really helped Trump in a number of different ways to appeal to a broader audience. I think he's helped to assuage fears about, Trump and all that kind of stuff. But actually now we need to get down to some very, very practical questions, very pragmatic questions, like what actual role is Bobby Kennedy going to have? Is he going to be put in charge of the FDA? Or the EPA, or the HHS, or the USDA, or all of them, or none of them. And it's not so at this particular moment, we really do need to get it right. Bobby Kennedy needs to have the right powers. He needs to have the ability, not just to formulate policy, not just to formulate suggestions, but actually to do stuff.
Right.
He needs to be able to change these corrupt institutions, it's basically, it's already established. These are corrupt institutions. We know the FDA is corrupt. We know the USDA is corrupt. We know the EPA is corrupt. Somebody needs to be able to do something. I think that at this particular moment, even before the inauguration, we've got to, or the Trump administration, Trump himself has got to get it right. He's got to give RFK Jr. the right kind of powers, the right oversight, the right team as well. RFK needs the right support as well. This isn't a one-man job.
Yeah.
Because we're dealing with huge bureaucracies, huge organizations with thousands and thousands of employees and ties to corporations and business and all that kind of stuff. This is a tangled web. It's going to take more than one person to untangle it and put things right.
And Trump has to have the courage, and I know he does, but he's got to really get it right to get the details right and take the win, because the podcast world that we're in and the social media world has decisively dethroned the old legacy media complex with this election win. And to throw all that away because you're worried about what 60 Minutes or somebody might say or whatever is like looking 20 years ago and past and saying and acting like that's where we're at. One of the names I've heard floated, Bobby Jindal, and I think maybe even Ben Carson has been floated for running the Health and Human Services. And, those, maybe they're nice people or whatever, but they, they're politicians. Well, Ben's more of a doctor, but I think that's not what was put. Let me put it very clearly to this matter. That's not who was on the advertisements for Trump. Okay. We didn't see the dream team of Bobby Jindal, trotted out. And, whatever. We didn't see Bobby Jindal in all those advertisements. We saw folks like Tulsi, we saw folks like RFK Jr., Nicole Shanahan, even in that big ad they released at the end there. They tried to make it like the Avengers. Everybody was in their little native world, it was kind of like the Avengers they were doing. And Nicole Shanahan was a big part in the RFK thing, even getting to the point where it got. And she's been very clear about where her priorities are. They lie with folks like Thomas Massie, Joel Salatin, regenerative agriculture, no seed oils. RFK Jr. has said no seed oils, make beef tallow great again, put it in the fries, let's get it going. And that's going to happen both on the cultural level, on the media level, campaigns, social activism, and have a few ideas myself that we'll be looking into. But also on the governmental level. We can't just have this position of being outside of the decision-making apparatus. So I think you're right. we got the wrong Bobby. It's not Bobby Jindal, it's Bobby Kennedy that should be Secretary of Health and Human Services.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been thinking, maybe what Bobby Kennedy needs to be, or I've had two basically contradictory positions. One is that Bobby Kennedy needs to have some kind of special position that gives him powers over, let's say, like the FDA, the EPA, the USDA, HHS, all together. So he's kind of like a
Yeah.
floating figure, and he can go between them and he can actually intervene and do stuff. So that's one idea. And then the other idea is that he's given one specific department, and it's difficult actually to know exactly which department he should be given in that case, or maybe two departments, because I think that the problem of America's health lies with those four departments I mentioned: the FDA, the EPA, the USDA, Health and Human Services. I mean, that's a massive, massive machinery of government that needs to be reformed. So
Well, if he was
it's
Secretary
difficult.
of Health and Human Services, he would have purview over the FDA because the FDA would be
Okay,
underneath
yeah,
it, to be subordinate
yeah.
to him. And then
Okay, well that's yeah. Okay, that's good then. That's good. So
so
maybe
that one
yes,
would be, and then
HHS.
I think that's in charge of CDC too, which is his other pet
Mm,
project is the CDC.
yeah.
So I think the best place is Health and Human Services as secretary.
Mm,
If he's gonna get a cabinet role, I think that would be a fantastic place for him. But like you said, maybe he could be a czar type figure that can move around and make
mm,
sure that the staffing is done well. But you got to be careful because once the executive power is granted to some pharmaceutical lobbyist or something like
yeah,
that, they'll
yeah,
all, oh yes, Bobby, that's great. Yeah, we'll do a
yeah.
little. How about we do a little hashtag? Let's look into corn oil or pick on some rant. No, they'll pick on an oil they don't really use, like sunflower oil. That's big in Russia and Ukraine. So let's look into sunflower oil. We'll give you that,
Yeah.
Bobby. Some stupid token win. No, we want all the seed oils gone. And it's going to
Mm,
happen. And you have to just let the people really move this conversation forward. And as I've said, I think probably you agree. Even if Trump fails to deliver on the mandate that the people have given him, we're already going to win this. It's just going to be the easy way or the hard way. We're winning this
mm,
because now that you've moved the Overton window, that
mm,
famous word that those Marxists use, but the Overton window of allowable thought, and now that you've moved it towards normalizing Ron Paul's in the Fed, Ron Paul's no neocons, getting Elon Musk, the most powerful man in the world, to say, yes, Ron, I agree. No neocons, no warmongers. That's a massive, earth-shattering
yeah.
moving of the Overton window. And then when you put the word no seed oils and Kennedy's already saying get rid of the seed oils and pack your bags, that's
Mm.
moving that shift and that space between left and right that we're going to build on, and it's only a matter of time before the whole edifice is taken down. So the best way to do it is to do it as soon as possible, you know, rather than
Mm.
delay it and allow children to fester with diabetes and obesity at 8 years old for many more years. That's going to be a catastrophe for the whole world.
Well, I mean, it's clear. Yes, like you say, I think it's clear that this isn't just a top-down political thing. This is a bottom-up cultural, social movement now. That much is clear. It's much bigger than just politics, or politicians. And so yeah, there's an easy way and there's a hard way. But I do think either way, this issue now isn't going away. I think people really are finally waking up to the problem of uh, chronic health diseases, and general unhealthiness in the US and in the Western world. And I don't think you can't put that genie back in the bottle now. I mean, they can try and fudge it, they can try and subvert it, they can try and make sure that big pharma and big ag have a soft landing. But I think the desire for reform will continue regardless. I mean, this is going to be a multi-term issue. Absolutely. No, you're not going to fix America's health in 4 years because we've had at least 7 decades, 8 decades of significant degeneration in the food supply, of increasing reliance on pharma and medicalization. I mean, this is a complex problem that has developed over decades into a problem of epidemic proportions where you have hundreds of millions of people, like 150 million people
Yeah.
who are really, really in a very, very bad way. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, 4 years won't be enough. This will be a multi-term issue. And hopefully what will happen is RFK will get the right position. He'll set the agenda. He'll start making serious changes to these regulatory agencies. We'll start seeing
Yeah.
measures to encourage a different kind of agriculture,
Yeah.
something closer to regenerative models,
Well,
and
yeah, for
then
sure. Yeah.
that that will be the template then, or the beginning of a longer movement to reverse the course
Yeah.
of the last 70 years in
And if
health and agriculture.
and if it's true, like the signal has been made that Thomas Massie could be the
Mm,
Secretary of Agriculture, that's where a lot of that heavy
yeah.
lifting would be done for food and everything. And I know
Mm,
he's been big on the Prime Act. He's pushed the Prime Act, which would really liberate a lot of small farmer beef producers to have a lot more leeway to be able to produce and process their own beef. You know what I mean? And
fantastic.
and be able to sell it. And he's been good on milk freedom and all these other things.
Mm,
Um, so that it's like a dream. I mean, it's almost like it's like the kind of stuff that we used to say back in the Ron Paul days when Thomas Massie was just kind of a acolyte of Ron Paul in the Congress.
mm,
Oh, wouldn't that be cool if Massey could run Secretary of Agriculture? It's like your day. It's like your dream picks that you don't even think would ever have a possibility. And now the window of allowable thought has now moved to the part where Massey's a serious contender that's being taken serious. And the idea of Salatin too. I mean, I've gotten to know Salatin personally very well. He'll be on our show this week as well.
nice.
And to get his thoughts on how America could be healthy again from an agricultural standpoint. But I've seen his mind work in the field. I've been on these little trips. We look at these different farms and different people, and he'll just look around. It's like watching A Beautiful Mind, the movie,
Mm,
or Rain Man. He'll be looking at. I mean, he's not like, but he'll be looking at the farm. He'll be looking at chickens and cows, and he'll start reorganizing the entire model of a conventional farm into this
mm,
genius, extremely profitable, extremely efficient, uh, uh, pollution-free model that is amazing. And so, yeah,
mm.
turning that mind loose for the American people would be fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, who would have thought that Joel Salatin would be directly involved in government policy? I mean, he's written for so long against government policy and railed, largely from the wilderness about it. But yeah, I mean, I didn't actually know that Thomas Massie. I mean, I knew who Thomas Massie was, but I didn't actually know that he was this big on agriculture. He
Yeah,
posted a video, I think, last week or this week of his mobile chicken
yeah,
feeder. It's crazy, I mean, to have someone like that who actually understands agriculture running the Department of Agriculture. I mean, that's how government should be, and yet it's not. Of
yeah,
course, it's not. You have people who don't understand agriculture running the Department of Agriculture. You have non-veterans running the Department of Defense, and that's not just in the US either. That's the UK too. You have career politicians, and they get these roles because they're career politicians,
yeah,
not because they actually have the experience for the job, not because they actually care about agriculture or the military or health or anything like that. It's a position on a career ladder.
hmm,
And hopefully, what we're going to do is we're actually going to see the return of specific expertise to these areas of government, of national life, that actually, more than any others, probably deserve real expertise and also a real desire to do good as well.
hmm. I mean, you've been out there helping a lot of people reconsider their health and get their situation together in their personal lives. And you did the thing with Tucker with the
Yeah.
tanning and the egg slonking and all these different things. Would
Mm.
you're an idea guy, would you be willing to help them if the Make America Healthy Again folks wanted you to help?
I wouldn't think twice about it. Yeah, I wouldn't think twice. It would be amazing. It would be an amazing it would be pleasure and a privilege, I think. I mean, it's not an understatement to say that actually the sort of esoteric health community on Twitter has already had a big effect on policy. I mean, we've got to this point, I think, in part It's hard to say exactly how much of a role we've played, but we have played a role. There's no question about that. And things like the end of men, I think that did a big that was good, but also just the sort of daily Twitter posting and social media posting, generating awareness, etc., generating memes, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, now is the time, I think, actually maybe for some of us to have a role in it. I mean,
And where did you study again? What was your study?
so I was at Cambridge and I was at Oxford. So I did my doctorate at Oxford in medieval history,
There you
which I
go.
finished in
Well,
2018.
you need to go
But
medieval on the special interest and help
yeah,
save America. So
there we go. I'm the man. I'm the man for the
got to
job.
heal
Yeah.
the you've got to heal that centuries long divide between UK and America. Finally, join
Yeah,
us.
I'd be glad to.
Make it
Really
right.
be glad to.
I want it to happen. Let's get Raw Egg Nationalist in there to help use his medieval studies and his influence for the youth, because that's what you need. That's what John. Let's be
Mm.
serious about it. This is
Yeah.
serious. JFK rallied the youth to get fit, right? Get out there and
Mm.
get sunlight. We're
Yep.
told today, when we had that pandemic, stay away from the sun. That's got to stop. Okay. So
Yeah.
whoever the messaging is for that, that's got to have to be replaced by folks like yourself. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah. I agree about that. I think that social media has been a big part of Trump's campaign. He's used social media very well this time in a much better way than the Kamala Harris campaign did. He used podcasts. He had I think Barron was quite heavily involved in selecting which podcasts Trump went on. And, JD Vance went on podcasts too, and others, Elon, etc. So I think they understand fundamentally the change that has occurred in the way that information is disseminated. And so, yes, I mean, we really need to harness that. And I do think that a central part actually of this Make America Healthy Again campaign must be very positive, targeted messaging at young people, young men and young women, telling them that they can improve their lives and telling them how and showing them how and showing them what they can actually expect. If they do clean up their diet, if they do start to exercise, if they get sunlight, it's perfect. It's all come together so well. I mean, we've got all the ingredients here for a successful mass campaign to improve the health of the nation, and it's sorely needed.
you were kind enough to publish my article, which was hard to find a publishing home for because it's kind of like next level stuff about the politics of thyroid. I said politics is downstream from thyroid, and it's true.
A great
And
argument.
yeah, I mean, you published it. It was the Ray Pete. We need a Ray Pete summer, and that Ray Pete summer is a lot closer to happening now with this
Yeah,
mandate win. And I hope that we can learn from folks like Dr. Pete and like what you're trying to advance and move things forward, which is to realize the interconnectedness of these issues. Like the mental health problem we have is related to the excess consumption of PUFA and seed oils, right? And so
yeah,
we need a PUFA free nation. We need to have a nation that is reducing its PUFA as a mandate together to help alleviate the mental health problems that makes people go wild and violent. And I've saw people on TikTok recently talking about poisoning their husbands because they're mad about Kamala losing. I said, we need to investigate the pipeline between demons to TikTok to Kamala Harris voters, because this is scary. I mean, it's just like trying to create it's like a Dionysian suicide cult at this point. It's pretty
mm,
disturbing, right? And
mm,
hopefully nobody acts out on these violent impulses, but a lot of these things are downstream from thyroid. You have an impaired thyroid, you have excess estrogen, and this is something that a lot of people in the country wrestle with because the estrogenic foods are so abundant and they're so
mm,
common. You can't go anywhere. Even if you go to a fine dining, the rich will be exposed to seed oils every day. So
mm.
it's really hard to avoid it in this country. And that has to be a conversation that we have publicly. And it has to go through the dietary guidelines. We either need to get rid of the dietary guidelines or
Yeah,
tell the truth about
yes.
what's really going on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, that Ray Pete Summer article was great. That was really good. And I think that with my new book that I'm writing, The Last Men, Liberalism and the Death of Masculinity,
When's
then
that out?
that will be out next summer, I think, with
Okay.
Passage.
All
I've
right.
almost finished,
Right in time for
almost
Repeat Summer. Okay.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So,
Because I
uh,
remember just the folks, we were saying, hey, he wanted to hold on to that to the spring, the article. I said, no, man, we got to go now. I feel it in the air.
yeah.
I felt
Yeah,
it in the
well, you were
air.
right. You
I
were
was doing
right.
that,
That feeling.
I had that tingling spider sensation. I said, my God, there's something coming. And this Kennedy
Yep,
win
you were
is
right.
giving us that. So
Mm.
you got your book out. So tell us, well, coming in the summer, what's it called? And what about
Yeah,
it?
so it's The Last Men, Liberalism, and the Death of Masculinity, and it's following on from the themes of The End of Men, the Tucker Carlson documentary. But I was just going to say, it's like your Rape Eat Summer article in the sense that it's kind of a hormonal theory of politics. And I think that, testosterone decline obviously is a huge factor in so many different aspects of our current political situation. So that's the basic theme of it. But the hormonal focus, I think, is something that actually, we would do very well to communicate. And I'm trying to communicate it. You're trying to communicate it with that Ray Pete article and with your other work. And I mean, it's definitely a message that we can spread. And the seed oil thing has already caught on. I mean, that's caught on fire, really. And you're seeing it everywhere now on social media, on TikTok, young people talking about getting seed oils out of their diet, using butter again, using tallow, using coconut oil. So we know that this message actually has the potential to be a mass message, a message that even young people, who are supposedly, not interested in stuff like that, can actually get behind. And we've seen similar stuff with the campaigns against hormonal birth control, for example. That actually
Mhm.
that kind of stuff can go viral. You get the right messaging, the right imaging, or the right images. You show. I mean, there was that long camp. There was that campaign about hormonal birth control where girls were showing what they looked like before and after. Here's how I looked before I took hormonal birth control. Like a lovely, slim young girl, and then here's how I looked after, and put on a huge amount of weight, just looks terrible, dark rings under the eyes,
Mm,
sort of really unhappy. I mean, that was powerful stuff,
yeah.
and yeah, we can harness that medium, we can send that message, and yeah, we can talk about seed oils, we can talk about endocrine disruptors, we can talk about the importance of getting sleep and blue light and all these different topics that we've been
Yeah.
talking about
And we got,
on Twitter, wherever.
and building the connection with left and right is so important here
Mm.
with this space because everybody can come together around curing all these diseases through,
Yeah,
because remember the big left versus right false option that the media gave us was, do you want government to have all the control over healthcare or in
yeah,
partnership with its oligarch corporations? And that's like a
yes.
total false paradigm. The real
Mm.
question should be, how do you liberate yourself from these chronic diseases like folks like
Mm.
Ray Pete and Dr. Chris Kenobi, who I want him to have a seat at the table. He's an MD who was a pioneer with the seed oil thing. I think he should be
Mm.
pushing for reform in the guidelines. And all of this needs to come together to bring left versus right because you got this false dialectic I've always been a little annoyed of, where the left says, embrace your sickness and embrace
Yeah.
your massive obesity, and then the right says, no, you're just a big old whatever, a big old beast monkey or whatever. That kind of game doesn't solve the problem. What really has to solve the
No.
problem is say, okay, you've all been poisoned, okay, and
Mm.
it's not a cop out, but it's like a best of both worlds. We've been poisoned. Some
Mm.
babies are being fed, this formula milk that makes them have low IQ drop and all these things and impairs their metabolism from day one. A lot of people have a fixed situation from the beginning, but we can all
Mm.
come together and try to stop the blaming, stop this garbage of pointing fingers and playing, schoolyard games, and actually
Yeah.
just basically we need to create a Manhattan Project for solving the metabolic problems of the world with this. So, yeah,
Yeah. Well, it can happen. I mean, I do think it's very clear, nevertheless, that at this particular moment in time, that there is definitely a partisan coding to health
yeah,
stuff, and obviously because Trump has just won on a health platform, and there wasn't any health messaging from Kamala Harris. There wasn't any attempt actually to counter the "Make America Healthy Again" stuff at all, was there? There was no. She didn't say, "Well, I'm going to appoint this health
yeah.
expert to look at chronic disease." There was just none of
Yeah,
that.
she knew there
So.
was nothing you could really say rhetorically that would overcome
Mm.
that, so she just let that one go. It's
Yeah,
very
which is
interesting.
which which is it, well, yeah, which is very interesting. So it is definitely right coded at the moment, and I think it's probably more broadly right coded in other countries as well, in Europe, etc. But I think it should be presented as a bipartisan issue. I think that it should just be said, look, regardless of your political orientation, you should want the food supply to be clean. You should want the air and water to be clean. You shouldn't want children to be poisoned from birth, like you say, with these terrible, terrible soy formulas that are, set them up then for a life of consuming processed food, for metabolic disruption, for reproductive issues, for IQ stunting and reduced neurodevelopment, all this kind of stuff. That's everybody should be able to agree on that. And I think if you present it in the right way, and Bobby Kennedy probably is the right person to do that. I mean, he's a controversial figure in certain respects, obviously because of his vaccine stances and especially, the coronavirus stuff. But actually, he is the nephew of JFK, son of Robert Kennedy. He's a lifelong Democrat. He's not a Republican. At the moment, he's an independent. So he stands apart from Trump. He stands apart from the MAGA movement. So I think if anybody can actually try and bridge the divide and bring people together around the unifying issue of health, then yes, it is Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
And just to finish with this, I think it has this intersection with all kinds of other issues like the opioid crisis, the fentanyl crisis. That's related to chronic pain, which is, I can show the science literature and have done so with the folks in academia. That's driven by seed oil consumption. There's this chronic pain, which leads to fentanyl, which leads to the overdose and all the other problems with that. It all kind of has so many interwoven aspects. So it's fascinating to see. And I'm glad that you are willing to help if our nation so chooses. And in the meantime, keep doing what you're doing in media and helping us get the word out culturally. So thank you, Raw Egg Nationalist, for joining us.
Look, it was a pleasure, and it's an amazing time to be alive. We're witness to amazing things and amazing potential, and I've got my fingers crossed and my toes crossed as well that we're gonna do something really beautiful.
I appreciate it. And that's it for our show today, folks. You can email me hello@theneighborschoice.com. Follow me at David Gornoski. And how do we follow you you've got a few different things.
Yeah, so follow me on Twitter. I'm at babygravy9 on Twitter. Mansworldmag.online is my magazine Mansworld, and my Substack is rawegstack.com.
Okay, thanks again.